investigating the origins of 18th century still-life prints in painting by Dr. Anne Farrer. Dr. Farrer, the stage is ready.
Thank you. I would like to express my great thanks to Mr. Aoki Takeyuki and the Umi-Mori Art Museum for your most generous invitation to speak at this conference, and to offer my congratulations for the exhibition, The Brilliance of Suzhou Prints, and the beautiful accompanying catalogue. Next slide, please. My paper today offers a very preliminary investigation into the origins of 18th century still life prints in painting. The use of the term still life in the title of this lecture possibly implies a European connection. The discussion that follows will attempt to establish the relevance of this term. Although the term still life can be taken to refer to a variety of compositions in Chinese prints, in this talk, I will focus on 4 18th century single sheet prints made by the Ding family, representing archaistic vessels and other objects, and in the collection of the British Museum. I will discuss the content of the 4 Ding prints and their grouping, forerunners in surviving single sheet prints of the Kangxi period, the representation of this theme in Chinese painting and other media, connections with Western imagery, and developments in the late Qing dynasty. The 4 single sheet prints are from a group of 29 prints in the Sloane collection in the British Museum. These were made by the Ding family. 26 of the prints bear signatures of either Ding Liangxian or Ding Yingzong. The family originated from Hangzhou, but worked in Suzhou. Much discussion has been devoted to the dating of these prints. The association with Engelbert Kempfer's visit to Japan in the early 1690s has been discounted. My recent research into this group of prints has concluded that they were first made in the early Qianlong period, that is between 1735 and 1750. Next slide, please. In the early 1990s, the late Professor Bo Song-Nian pointed out that the group of Ding prints, together with earlier prints datable to the Kangxi period in the British Museum collection, should be grouped in complete and incomplete sets of 4. Professor Bo suggested that the groupings often followed seasonal flowers or expressed wishes for wealth, honor, many children, and long life. These groups of 4 are linked by similar subject matter, poem length, and signatures. On this basis, there appear only to be 2 complete sets of Ding prints in the British Museum collection, which we see on this slide. They all have identical length in poems, inscriptions, and signatures. Next slide, please. The 4 Ding prints I'm discussing have images of archaistic vessels, scrolls, books, fruits and flowers and other objects, and are accompanied by poems of 14 characters. In common with many single sheet prints, the prints carry auspicious meanings expressed through the objects represented in them. Although portraying similar subject matter, these 4 Ding prints may not be a true set. The first, third, and fourth prints shown here depict flowers associated with spring, shown by the peony, autumn by the chrysanthemum, and winter by the camellia and plum blossom. The pomegranate flowers in the second print are not the normal flower associated with summer, but the flower is associated with the Duanwu festival in the 5th lunar month and carry the meaning of warding off evil. It is possible that the pomegranate flowers may have been used here as an alternative in the place of the lotus symbolizing summer. A further indication this may not be a true set of 4 prints is the differing sequence of characters at the end of the inscriptions, naming either Ding Liangxian or Liangxian, which differ from the identical inscription lengths and signatures of the 2 sets in the previous slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Two surviving single sheet prints of the first half of the Kangxi period are the only extant forerunners in the print medium to the four so-called still life Ding prints. The Kangxi prints bear no inscriptions, but we may assume that they were made in Suzhou following inscriptions marked Gusu on other prints of different subjects in this collection acquired by Sloane. Next slide, please. From a representational point of view, there is a marked difference between the softer, rougher linearity and the muted color palette of the Kangxi prints shown on the left, and the exact outline and bright color of the Ding prints shown on the right. The Kangxi prints are in horizontal format, unlike the vertical format of the Ding prints, with objects arranged on, under, and to the side of the table. They were probably part of a group of 4 prints linked by seasonal flowers in each print. The objects represented included archaic and archaistic objects and other precious collectible objects, which would have embodied wishes for longevity, examination success, and long life. By the late Ming, these objects would have been regarded as bogu, meaning antiquities or precious objects, when their possession embodied sentiments of social status and scholarly education. I have found no paintings equivalent to the compositions in the Kangxi prints. The origins of the images in the 4 Ding prints belong within the broad category of seasonal or functional paintings made for auspicious purposes. These paintings would have represented a prominent part of Chinese painting production over the centuries from the pre-Tang period onwards, and would have been acquired by households and individuals from almost every level of society, from the imperial court downwards. These functional paintings were bought and often offered as gifts and were displayed to mark seasonal festivities such as the New Year, Double Fifth, and Mid-Autumn festivals. Other categories of functional painting include those that were given to offer congratulations and good wishes for personal life events such as birthdays, weddings, examination success, and so on. In the late Ming classic, Treatise on Superfluous Things, the author Wen Zhenheng in Qian 5 gives a calendar for displaying scrolls, in which he writes that all scrolls should be displayed according to the time of year and the seasonal festivals. The paintings in Wen's calendar were functional paintings with auspicious meanings. He regarded them as being distinct from the examples of paintings by classic masters of the past, listed earlier in Jan 5, which were desirable examples for a personal collection, without great discrimination for their quality and authenticity. Linking the Ding prints to recorded titles of auspicious paintings in the Ming and in the early modern China is problematic, since the Ding prints discussed here have no titles, but only poems. A list of auspicious paintings is given in the Tong Su Bian by the Qing scholar Zhai Hao. In Qian 10, titled Congratulatory Wishes, Zhu Song, Zhai Hao includes a list of auspicious paintings from the inventory of the 15th century Grand Secretary Yan Song. In this text, some titles imply particular images, for example, the 3 star gods, the 8 immortals, and so on. But in others, no specific imagery is implied that could be related to the compositions I'm discussing. Reading this document, it is clear that the titles of these paintings require a separate scholarly examination. It is therefore necessary to find paintings which have equivalent imagery to the 4 Ding prints under discussion. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
The representation of seasonal flowers is ubiquitous in auspicious paintings. The hanging scroll attributed to the northern Song painter Zhao Chan, representing camellias, narcissi, and other seasonal flowers and rocks, has an inscription above the painting by the Qianlong emperor referring to the bright light of the new year. And the painting is listed as a New Year painting Sui Chao Tu in the 18th century imperial collection. Next slide, please. The representation of bronzes and archaistic vessels seems not to occur in auspicious paintings until the Ming dynasty. In the hanging scroll on paper by the court painter Bian Wenjin, inscribed period, equivalent to 1427. The composition represents a single archaistic bronze core with auspicious flowers, a persimmon on a branch, and a rui scepter, proclaiming the new year. The Qianlong emperor added an inscription mounted at the top of the painting, assembled blessings for the new year. Next slide, please. A hanging scroll in ink and color on silk by the 16th century artist Lu Zhi, dated 1537, shows a tall ceramic vase with a crackled glaze containing camellias and a branch of plum blossom, a bronze containing narcissi, lily bulbs, a rui, and other objects. The composition with objects portrayed on a tilted ground looks forward to those of the 18th century. The first and third inscriptions by Zhu Jie and the Qianlong emperor identify the painting as being made for the new year. The scholar official classes led to a flourishing market in antiquities and related objects in the Jiangnan region. There are images of bronzes in numerous paintings of gatherings of scholars during this period, recalling Song's style. Seen, for example, in this painting, Enjoying Antiquities by the late 15th century artist Du Jin. Next slide, please. In the 17th century, Chen Hongshou produced many functional depicts a tall vase identifiable as a bronze from its coloring, which has only a fleeting connection with archaic or archaistic vessels. The camellias and plum blossoms, amongst other flowers, are indications that this painting was made for the New Year festival. Next slide, please. As a professional artist, Chen produced many paintings for clients to mark seasonal festivals and birthday celebrations. Most important of Chen's auspicious paintings with antiquarian content was the presentation painting he made to celebrate his aunt's entitled Lady Xianwen, giving instruction on the rites of Zhou. Flatteringly compares the learning and wisdom of his aunt with that of the Sixth Dynasty's figure, Lady Xianwen, who at the age of 80 lectured to 120 students on the Zhou. Chen paints on silk with fine outline filled with color using a rich academic style appropriate to the historical subject of the painting and also to the respect due to his aunt. The painting shows Lady Xianwen seated in front of a screen, and in front of her is a table covered with an ornamental cloth on which there is a bronze vessel with patination in blue, green, and red, containing branches of bracket fungus, lingzhi, and a ding vessel, a lacquer box, a qin in a red cover, and a bundle of scrolls. These were objects that represented the scholarly learning of Lady Xianwen, as well as objects representing wishes for her longevity. Next slide, please. In the 17th century, visual images representing antiquities or precious objects with historical associations circulated in illustrated printed books. In, for example, the 10 Bamboo Studio catalogue of letterpaper designs, published in 1644, seen here in the 1952 reprint. In the section Bogu, there includes groups of archaistic bronzes and other items. Such images also appeared in illustrated books of vernacular fiction of the late Ming and early Qing, and served as visual aids and references to the content of the text. Next slide, please. In a different pictorial medium, the carved lacquer screen produced in the late 17th century, often as a birthday gift, used marginal motifs around the main image in the center of the screen. In this example of a carved lacquer screen, there are 12 motifs representing antiquities and other items along the top of the border, 2 larger sets of images of flowers in bronzes on the left and right vertical borders, and flowers of the 12 months along the bottom. These motifs would have embodied different felicitous sentiments, contributing to the overall auspicious value of the larger images in the center of the screen. It is likely that 17th century artisans compiling illustrated books and assembling the images for lacquer screens selected these small images from books of designs available to them in their studios. Apart from Chen Hongshou's paintings, which clearly document his interest in antiquarian in different contexts, it is without doubt that images of antiquities, objects in archaistic forms, in conjunction with seasonal flowers, would have been produced in professional urban studios as auspicious paintings to celebrate seasonal festivals. I haven't found any from the second half of the 17th century, but I'm sure they exist. Examples of such paintings reflecting a low artisanal quality may be found in very ephemeral collections of visual material exported to Europe in the first half of the 18th century. Next slide, please. In the British Library, there are several volumes of Bunzhao-related flower painting and other works on paper datable to the Ming mid-Kangxi period. Included within one of these volumes are these 2 small paintings, which do not fall within the Bunzhao category, but whose auspicious subject matter indicates that they were for the new year, probably intended to be offered as gifts, as single paintings, or as part of sets. The very rough appearance of the paintings suggests that they were studio paintings produced in bulk and for sale in the marketplace, and probably not intended as export material. By the second quarter of the 18th century, at the same time as the Ding prints were made in Suzhou, there is abundant evidence for the production of auspicious paintings representing antiquarian and archaistic themes. The importance associated with antiquarian collections by the Yongzheng and particularly the Qianlong emperors was associated with the reinforcing the kingship and legitimacy of the Manchu imperial line. The making of these paintings and their survival is partly due to the fact that they were produced at court and have remained in the imperial collections until now. Next slide, please. An important group of such paintings was by Jesuit artists whose knowledge of European still life painting undoubtedly contributed to their compositions of seasonal and congratulatory techniques popular with the Qing emperors. The Italian Jesuit artist Lang Shining, Giuseppe Castiglione, in this painting, Assembled Blessings, shown on the left, was made for the accession of the Yongzheng emperor. This work, painted on silk, shows a prominent use of chiaroscuro, both in the painting of the vase and the flowers. In a similar manner, Zhang Weibang, follower of Lang Shining, in the painting celebrating the New Year, the Spring Festival, shown on the right, depicts a similar composition and style with objects symbolizing long life and prosperity. Next slide, please. A further and important category to our discussion of paintings on silk, bearing to my knowledge no sign of Western painting techniques, has complex groups of objects painted in outline and color. These paintings celebrate different seasonal festivals and are often anonymous or wrongly attributed to important artists of the past. In their technique, the paintings relate to styles of court painting dating back to the Song. The group of paintings represented by the two shown here may be dated to the 18th or 19th centuries. The hanging scroll on the left, entitled Good News of Harvest, with a tall vase and flowering branches, fruits, and an array of fine objects, is attributed to the Yuan dynasty. But the composition and vase decoration indicate that this was probably made in the 18th century. The hanging scroll on the right, titled New Year Offerings, is in similar detailed style and is spuriously attributed to the Yuan artist Qianlong. Next slide, please. A further category of functional painting celebrating seasonal festivals are those on paper made by the emperor and his family and by other court artists. Recalling the sparseness of the composition by Lu Zhi, these paintings are in the Xie style and with an emphasis on quality of ink and brushstroke in the literati manner. The painting on the left is by Zhou Gui. The painting on the right is by the Qianlong Emperor's sixth son, Yongrong, dated 1768, made at the request of the emperor as a New Year gift for his mother. Next slide, please. The Qianlong Emperor made many seasonal paintings. This painting celebrating the new year, titled Spring Plants, is unusual in combining fine outline and rich color, a technique usually used for paintings on silk. Next slide, please. A comparison between the 4 Ding prints with the more complex compositions on silk, which I've just shown, with the example shown on the right, shows a similarity on a number of points. Allowing for difference in medium and scale, there are similarities in composition, complexity of objects, and their detailed presentation with outline and color. Auspicious seasonal paintings of antiquities, flowers, fruits, and other objects painted on silk with the rich detail associated with court painting, I speculate, are likely to have been made in painting studios and artisanal centers in provincial cities such as Suzhou. Such paintings, fashionably portraying objects with decorative finishes, popular at the time, are likely to have been available for purchase by the urban public in Suzhou. Print studios, such as the Ding family studios, copied and adapted current painting compositions, again I speculate, so that the prints could be offered at a lower commercially competitive price than those of paintings. Next slide, please. Comparing the 4 Ding prints with other single sheet prints of similar subject matter produced in the 2nd and 3rd quarters of the 18th century, it is evident that there are 2 distinct categories of representation. The Ding print on the left is distinct in its fine linearity and exact registration of printed color. This print and its group contrast with a different group which variously uses Western perspective, chiaroscuro and trompe-l'oeil imagery in the examples on the right. These prints include the group discussed by Christoph von der Berg and referred to as Wenfantu, representing vases and other objects in bookcase sections, and single sheet prints with a variety of objects, including archaistic objects, flowers, and books with specific dates given in the Qianlong reign, as seen in the Umi-Mori Art Museum's print on the right. There is a difference in date, I think, between these 2 groups of prints, the Ding prints being slightly earlier, dating maybe from the 1730s and 40s, and the other prints datable to a slightly later date of the mid-1740s. The Ding prints of the first category may be regarded as using Chinese painting styles, whereas the prints of the second category consciously borrowed Western visuality and also represented foreign objects. We may ask what event instigated the Westernizing trend in the second group, who made the prints, and where the print studios were located. Next slide, please. The evolution of antiquarian subjects developed further in the late Qing. Western systems of realistic painting introduced in the early and mid-Qing contributed to improvements in precise drawing of antiquarian objects and provided the basis for the emerging trend for composite rubbings that became associated with the Shanghai school in the second half of the 19th century. The vessels in the composite rubbings were enriched with paintings of flowers in a new antiquarian image form titled Pictures of Antiques and Flowers, or Pictures of Flowers and Antiques, Bogu Hua Hui, and carried auspicious meaning associated with bronze, stone, and ceramic objects. The scrolls would have been hung to display the erudition of the owners. A further category, not illustrated here, of auspicious painting, which emerged as part of the popularization of antiquarianism in the Shanghai school, was the painting genre, the eight broken Ba Po Tu. Next slide, please. Within the field of vernacular prints, sets of prints with images of archaistic vessels with flowers of the four seasons survive, dating from the late Qing. This set of 4 vertical prints from Shandong is printed on black paper with hand coloring. It is tempting to class these as popular images reflecting antiquarian trends present in Qing culture. To conclude, the origins of the 4 so-called still life Ding prints lie within the category of functional painting made to express auspicious sentiments, and were possibly associated with the New Year festival. The Ding prints, made in the second quarter of the 18th century, are likely to have been copied from contemporary paintings on silk, displaying complex groups of objects and painted in the opulent academic style associated with court painting. Such paintings, I speculate, would have been produced in professional painting studios in cities such as Suzhou, and may have been sold in sets of 4, but the sets do not survive. The small format Ding prints have only survived with paper edges, no formal borders, and were not mounted as scrolls. We may speculate that they were intended, possibly as New Year gifts, for pasting on walls within the house, or used for another purpose, such as being mounted on screens, which were used as room dividers. With regard to terminology, I recommend maybe that the term still life should not be used in connection with these prints. Although European techniques are evident in this genre in the middle and late Qing, the origin of this image type lies firmly within Chinese historical visual culture. Thank you.